Leadership is a critical component of any organization, especially in communities and societies. It outlines the vision of an organizational entity or community of people and then takes action to bring the vision to fruition. It is therefore one of the most studied roles in business and public life and most observed, especially in politics. Leadership can break or make a corporate entity or a nation. At this time, South Africa itself is facing a challenge of leadership with different sectors of society, including the ANC, questioning the quality of leadership offered by President Zuma. In our daily lives, we do play leadership roles without realizing it. Now, let's demystify this topic and talk to leadership coach, Dr. Dumisani Magadlela. Dr. Dumi, pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Tim.
Much appreciated.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for having me.
So here's a question. Right up front, leadership, we sometimes talk about it as if we all understand what it is, right?
Yes.
I think it's a position, or it's a title, or it's this.
Yeah.
I would suggest that it is a role that is played at one time or another.
Yeah.
Unpack leadership for me.
Thank you, Tim. The first thing we need to really look at when we're talking about leadership, Tim, is that we need to understand that it is the capacity to make people do things, to influence others, but it starts within each person that chooses to lead. Most of the time, the theories and philosophies about leadership and the academic, intellectualizing of it, leadership is experiential and it's practical. It starts, how do I view myself? How do I view others? Do I manipulate them towards my own personal ends, or do I support the vision that we share with others? Look at what happened take from the apartheid regime or during colonialism, the leaders that emerged and said, let's free ourselves and our people. And the visionary leaders at the time rallied everyone around to say, this is where we're going. All of Africa is free today. Well, all of it, almost all of it. And that started with leaders saying, this is our vision, this is where we're going as a people. And some of them chose to lead, others were thrust upon. That leadership role was thrust upon them and they had to step up and lead.
So I'm suggesting that, now and again we play leadership roles.
Yes.
As regular, ordinary people, whether we know it or we don't. Am I right?
Yes.
So at what point do we become leaders? Is anybody a leader? Is when what happens that defines the role there and then and says, at least at that time, you are leading?
See, these are some of the illusions around leadership that we need to dismantle, Team. Everyone is a leader at some point, in some capacity in our lives. We are leaders of our own lives. That's where it starts. And we need to look at, how am I leading myself to be where I am? How have I led myself to arrive at where I am right now? And the first thing to understand with leadership, it's not a position. A position is a role, and it may have a leadership role in that. But that's the biggest illusion about leadership, that my position gives me the right to be a leader of others. If I have no followers or my followers are not happy with me, I'm not leading. I'm occupying a leadership position. Big difference in that.
Now, let me go to the corporate world and I'll move to the political world.
Sure.
In the corporate world, there's a lot of emphasis played on, even if it may be a positional leadership thing, but whoever occupies that position, they pay particular attention to.
Yes.
Why is so much value placed in the leadership role in the corporate world?
Let me start with this, Tim. The leadership development industry right now around the world, and as of the latest leadership summit, which is the Global Leadership Summit, is a $31 billion industry, the leadership development business or industry of developing leaders. That is not a small amount to play with. So that tells you that in businesses, in corporates around the world, there is a massive effort to develop leaders that can lead businesses to maintain a level of competitiveness. And let me bring it down to what companies do. Say you have a CEO that's running the business. They normally have a short term, 3 years, 5 years. That leader will not be there forever. You need to build someone that will take over from that. That's leadership, succession planning. And what you need to do is invest in the qualities of a leader that will lead that business into the future. So you need to think ahead. Where are we at? Where are we going to be? This is why leaders for tomorrow need to have an understanding of the current scenarios and how to build towards where they need to be. So leadership in corporates today is a massive industry that requires investment, same way as the business imperatives of this is the amount of product that we're going to have, and this is what product we're going to sell in 5 years' time. So they need to think the same way with the people, who are the greatest assets of any company.
Sure. And you're mentioning the amounts of money that it costs or is spent in developing leaders.
Yes.
And the incomes earned by people who occupy leadership
Yes.
positions, I'm sure, run into trillions of rands anyway. Because some, and huge, I'm talking about those who are CEOs and so on.
Yes.
But let's go to the world of politics now. And that is the most important thing. In South Africa, we're focused a lot on, well, in football as well, I shouldn't forget. Because the coaches are also under the spotlight the whole time.
Yeah.
Let's start with the politicians first. In South Africa, concerns expressed repeatedly about President Zuma, the opposition parties, the NGOs, now some members of the ANC themselves and the broader society. Is it fair to place so much expectations on one individual and to blame him for so many of the troubles that the nation is going through?
Yeah. That is a very tricky one right now. I think for me, the point I would make with that, Tim, is that people need to understand the context and understand where we're coming from. Even in the recent politics of our country, understand that South Africa is in a very tumultuous context and position right now. And so to answer your question around understanding that, it's not fair to place everything in one individual. But a big part of it, Tim, is about taking responsibility, because that's a big part of leadership. The responsibility of a leader is to be accountable. So accountable to whom? I would say within the ANC, if we take the ANC, what we know now, the ANC has processes and systems and structures in place to handle those kinds of processes. I think that's why we see now with the ANC and the extended meetings and the engagement that they've had in that. But it's understanding that those processes have been functional and have worked before. So the yearning to have a resolution on it, what you see from the majority of people in the media space and in social media, to say, what's happening? We're going to pop the champagne and people talking like that. We need to understand the majority of people may not be in that space, but where are they? But the processes within the organization need to be allowed to run their course. Because if you see ministers standing up like they've done, that tells you something. And that's very important to understand and to respect.
But you know, I find
processes.
that people feel bad when somebody stands up to whoever occupies a leadership position. They think it's wrong, it's a bad thing, you don't show respect and so on, irrespective of any observations they may have made regarding the performance of the particular leader. Is it a bad thing?
I think it's a normal thing that there will be different camps in that. That's normal politics. And in leadership is not a popularity contest in that sense. It's a matter of what is important for me and my constituency, and what is the constituency saying. If you look at our leaders right now, Tim, the political leaders, and look at who they are appealing to maintain their positions, you can see that there's an awareness on where the power lies. And the analysts that we've been listening to, they point to all sorts of things and trying to guess how the cookie will crumble. The point of it is we need to watch the context.
Let's talk about the qualities of a good leader, because leadership is leader. There's also bad people who become leaders, isn't it? History is full of them.
Yes, it is.
And even organizations can tell you that when the company was run by so-and-so, it used to be hell, and market share went down, profits and so forth. So people do get to those positions and become leaders by virtue of that, and then cause mayhem or create successes either way. What are the qualities at this time of our history that you regard our history as human beings, you regard as good qualities of a leader?
Oh, great question. One of the qualities, let me give you at least 3 top qualities of a leader right now. Right now, the world, especially starting with our own context, our country and the world need leaders that are attuned to the rest of the world, what is needed in the world. And one of our renowned leaders in business, Dr. Ruel Khoza, says we need attuned leaders, leaders that are in touch with what's going on, emotionally attuned to what the environment and the context requires, Bratim. So the first thing is our leaders attuned to what's required, and that's the first thing. So being attuned to everyone and everything, thinking locally, thinking globally, but applying and acting locally, which is the local context of the leader, and being emotionally savvy by understanding what people need. That's the attuned leader in that. The second one is leaders that can build relationships and partnerships across cultural difference, locally and globally.
Sure.
And that's one of the qualities that we see. People appeal to that. If you look at look at our president when he speaks in his language, in a context where people understand what he's saying, how he's a great orator, he can speak and connect to people. But put him in a space where he speaks in English, there's something else that happens there. It's understanding that different leaders, Bratim, are functioning better in different contexts.
No, I just want to rush you in short, half a minute. What are the qualities that anyone who aspires to be a leader should develop? Just mention them.
Have a vision.
Yeah, one.
Be able to follow through on that vision.
Right.
Create a clear message that you're carrying, that how you're going to support others.
Okay.
And be serving of the greater good. Move from selfishness to serving others.
Okay.
It's a very important one.
It requires further discussion. But at least we can identify it at this time. Dr.
Okay.
Tumi, I appreciate that we are together on the program and you shared your thoughts with us. And everything of the best to you. Merry Christmas and everything that goes with the festive season.
Thank you, Pratim.
Much appreciated. Dr. Dumisani Magadlela talking to us about leadership. Well, it's something that, you know, now and again you've got to reflect on, you see, because you end up being a leader, stock firm, in your family, and a clan, I mean, or in your community, in the church. So think about what is required of you. We'll continue with the show in a moment.